Hey, Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Would you prefer financial aid for people who are poor and not people who are assholes?
Yes.
See, you didn't remember. You didn't remember. Thank God I was able to find the notes. What is up, everybody? And welcome to Sleaze Bags. And no, wait, I didn't cut up the audience. What is up, all you dirtbags out there? And welcome to Sleaze Bag Cinema. It's been a while since we actually recorded one of these episodes. It's been a while. I can't sing. I am your host, one of your hosts, Mike Jamison, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the better-looking one, the one who sings better, Andrew Gross. Andrew, how the hell are you?
I am well, sir. I am rolling, Wyatt. Wyatt, I am rolling.
Wyatt, I am rolling. Andrew down in his fortress of solitude.
Yep. And I'm doing a little shout out to the great Val Kilmer, who has, I believe, I think since last time we put something out, has very sadly passed away. Probably not unexpected. He was known to be sick for a while, and that's
a lot of people have passed away since the last time we recorded. Val Kilmer. Joe Don Baker, who is in the movie that we are covering tonight, and of course, it all comes back to MASH. Loretta Swit has also passed away.
Yes.
Hot Lips Houlihan. So rest in peace to all those guys. But yes, like we just talked about, Joe Don Baker, who is in the movie that we are covering tonight, Joysticks. And I know people out there in the audience are saying, Joysticks? The hell movie is Joysticks? Yes. Our mission for Sleaze Bag Cinema is to cover all of the lesser-known sleazy movies. So we're not giving you Porky's this time. We're giving you Joysticks. And I guess you'll see what we thought of this movie.
We thought very little of it, as you will come to learn. Spoilers.
It's not that bad. It's no. I'm gonna break our pact once again. It's not Zapped. Thankfully, it's not Zapped.
All right. Well, we'll get to the end when we go to the Zmed-O-Meter, and we'll have this discussion. But let's kick it in the high gear here. There's a lot to unpack with this one.
Is there really a lot to unpack with this one?
Well, okay, it's a jiggle movie.
Yes, it is.
So, Mike, fair to say, would you agree? Would most agree, or is it known to be that the what started the jiggle movies was Porky's? Is that fair to say? I don't think. I could be wrong, but because I was a young kid and these were not things I had access to see, but I believe Porky's was the one that started it. At least it was the one that made Hollywood realize there's money to be made.
I think Porky's, if it wasn't the first one, it was the one that made Hollywood stand up at attention, no pun intended, and think in the early 80s that they could make money off of comedies, jiggle comedies, basically. I was going to almost say teenage comedies, but they're teenage comedies and jiggle comedies. I think there's a difference between the two.
It's basically, what vehicle can we create to justify showing hot chicks with their tops off, and we'll have a little softcore porn in here. But there's an analogy that I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you remember this. But in our early youth, there was a vehicle called MTV, and at the time, probably when that first hit, punk rock was kind of dying off, and what coming on the scene was called it glam metal. Like
hair metal,
hair bands, hair metal, Twisted Sister, Poison. But the backstory,
Mr. Sister.
The backstory of that is that in L.A. There was several bars, I think all on the same street or all on the same block, that these bands who were unknown were all jamming in. You could see Rat, you could see, Poison, Motley Crue, Wasp, in their very infancy, and Quiet Riot was among them, and they're just, living five guys in one bedroom apartments. Hopefully they had met a girl who would get them some food. They weren't making any money. They were paying to play, et cetera, et cetera. But what happened was, the story I understand it from the documentaries I've seen, is that Quiet Riot was the first one who got a record deal, and they put out their video for "Come On, Feel the Noise" on MTV, and it blew up. It like went shot to #1 on the Billboard charts. They started selling records, and the story goes that when that happened, all the record executives were like, "Oh, there's money to be made," and they started, like, within months, every band, you know, Faster Pussycat, you name it, all were getting record deals and making videos on MTV. So, point being, I think when this is similar in my mind, that when Porky showed, there's money to be made, all the directors started writing up schlock like this and getting hot chicks to be in them so they could throw it in the theaters and turn a buck. So I think it parallels that very well, considering, again, this is also in the same time frame, the early '80s. So
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And also bringing up Quiet Riot reminded me that in 1983 in third grade, I think I had a Quiet Riot folder that I brought to school.
Oh yeah,
with the guy with the face mask, and
yeah, it was
he's in the
iconic.
straight jacket.
Yeah, that's an iconic.
So that just brought up really good memories. But yeah, I do think you're right. I think with
do you remember
Porky's
album cover art, Mike? I want to just sidebar for a moment of silence. How great album cover art was back in the day. Oh, those were.
I do remember album
that
cover
was
art,
wonderful,
and I miss it also.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost, you anticipated what was going to be on the cover of the record almost as much as the music, because they were gold. Anyway, back to Joysticks. So this is okay. Well, what's popular now? Okay, jiggle movies, hot chicks. I don't know if that'll ever not be popular.
And jiggle movies and video games. If it's the early
video
80s,
games are red
jiggle
hot,
movies
so
and video games.
How can we miss if we make a jiggle movie that takes place in Joysticks? And well, how can we miss? Well, they did, because it's awful. But we're going to talk about it.
It's funny because you're saying about how, and I think a lot of big studios did put some money behind, like I think something like Bachelor Party, which came out in '84.
Oh.
This came out in '83, but something like Bachelor Party has a little bit more of a production value to it. This kind of movie, the director's name is Graydon Clark. He had a history of low budget flicks. Now, they were low budget flicks that would make a little bit of money, because this was also the time. It's not now where it's either going to a major movie theater chain or it's going right to streaming. Back then, you could release these type of movies, make a couple million, and you're turning a profit because you're only making this movie for $1 million, maybe with this kind of movie, maybe less. Probably not with this kind of movie, because there is an interesting backstory with them getting the approval of Midway to use their video games in the movie, because Midway wanted to push some of the new video games they had out. So they actually approved this movie using the actual video games. But like I said, the director, he directed movies called Wacko, Satan's Cheerleaders. Later, after this, he directed The Forbidden Dance, which was Lambada, the Forbidden Dance. So he had a history of directing these types of movies. And I do think it was just the melding of, it was probably the people in the studios who were backing this saw that they could make a cheap movie. It involved video games. It involved jiggle. And let's get this made, throw it out there, and we're going to make a little bit of money. That's all. That's all they were hoping for.
It probably was, just like you're saying, in this, we remember this. We were young kids then. You didn't have anything else to do. So you'd go see a piece of shit just because, you didn't have much else to do back then. Movie was just kind of a thing to do with your friends and so forth. There wasn't no internet, no streaming. It was decades away, and these movies probably sat in theaters, even if they weren't raking in. Probably sat in theaters for months till eventually, hey, what's that? Let's go see. Just these movies come. Even the blockbusters barely make it 3 weeks anymore. These probably sat in there. And they probably were drive-ins, or they were double features, and they make at least back their coin, if not some, some amount of profit.
we're talking about that. I will tell you the budget, $300,000.
I believe
Box office made almost $4 million, $3,952,000. Opening weekend, it opened in 300 theaters on March 4th, 1983, right before Return of the Jedi. I'm sure George Lucas was nervous that he was going to have to go up
it. It was
against
shitting a brick about.
But opening weekend, it did make over $1 million. Its opening weekend.
Maybe this is more of a blockbuster.
I mean, it
than
made
we're
back
giving
its
it credit.
budget and there are people, if you do watch this movie, that you will know.
Oh, yes, that's
like we alluded to in the beginning. Rest in peace, the Wendy Jo Sperber Memorial. Joe Don Baker, who worked with the director in a couple of his earlier movies.
Well, let's get to that, because this is just I'm going to say it, this is a schlock. You know, in my brain and my remembrance, I remember Joe Don being I don't respect is the word, but an established actor who, you know, was very steady work almost every year of his life, his acting life, I should say, in that era in the 70s and 80s. He, you know, some very well-known films, Walking Tall, certainly one of them is, you know, a landmark film, Cult Following. So the head scratcher to me is how the hell, you know, did someone have pictures of him in compromising positions? How did Joe Don, who, you know, you wouldn't think would have to, I'll say, stoop to something like this, but again, you uncovered the theory that he and the writer or the director had a relationship.
The director.
Okay, so go ahead. They had done what before together?
I think they had done Wacko before. And even though, like we're saying, though, we remember Joe Don Baker as a character actor who was always continuously in movies as we were growing up. But you got to think, even Walking Tall in the 70s was, I think it was a B movie. It's one of the more famous B movies, but it was probably something that you were talking about, like something like this was probably in a drive-in. Yeah. So him showing up in this in 83, he wasn't, I don't think Joe Don Baker was that well established that he wouldn't, as we said, stoop to this level to do this type of movie. You know, I mean, you got to think in 85, like 2 years later, he's in Fletch, where he's playing the second banana bad guy.
Right.
You know, he's still not. It's not like he's.
I like this killed his career in any way.
You can't really think of any blockbusters he was in. I mean, I think the biggest thing that a lot of people will remember him in is being in a couple Bond movies, right? Other than Walking Tall.
He was the one with Timothy Dalton.
He was.
He was central in that one, actually.
And he was the bad guy, right, in the Timothy Dalton one?
Yeah.
And then he's in GoldenEye as a CIA agent. He's kind of like the Felix Leiter character in GoldenEye.
Okay.
So he's playing a different character.
Well, when you say these things, it's triggering my brain a little bit. Like, yeah, this was, again, long before internet and social media. Like, you didn't get canceled.
I know what you mean.
If he did something like this in this day and age, like, oh my God, his career's over, he would probably ostracized from Hollywood and end up, you know, making commercials at best. You know, didn't happen to actors back then because, you know, at least not like it does today. You could survive. I mean, some didn't. Some got pigeonholed as we've talked about. But you know, most did survive and go on have, if not illustrious, but steady working career, which I think is, you know, listening to some actor interviews over the years, they want to do it. They want to be able to make money at and just have steady work, as they call it. I mean, if you're not an A-lister, that's what you kind of got to rely on, is working all the time to keep the money faucet at a trickle, if not more. So,
yeah, because think about like the main characters of this movie are the least interesting, and the ones who had the nothing careers, whereas a lot of the supporting characters are the faces that a lot of people will recognize.
Yeah,
like John Grice, who played King Vidiot. He was Laszlo in Real Genius, Uncle Rico in
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite, thank you, because I totally forgot the name of that movie. And John Deal, who's Arnie, one of the henchmen of Joe Don Baker, went on to do Miami Vice. Both of them are kind of that guys. I mean, movie nerds like us know who they are, but they're very much that guys, but they had steady careers through the 80s and 90s in
Well,
Hollywood.
give John Grease some credit, in a little more credit here, because he was and I'm cheating. I'm looking on IMDb. He was on Lost, which is a very big hit show in my brain. One of the hottest shows now is The White Lotus. He's on that. I haven't
I
seen it.
keep forgetting. Yeah, he was in the last. He was in the
know.
last season of White Lotus.
Okay, I haven't watched it. Is he a fairly central character?
I don't watch it either, but I do remember
okay.
just seeing online people talking about it and seeing his face and thinking like, oh, that's. And I would
Okay.
kind of remember his name, but I always think, oh, that's Laszlo, because I always think of him as Laszlo from Real Genius. And then I think, wow, he looks really old. And then I realize how old I am.
And he was, I don't remember, it couldn't have been a big role in the Taken movies, so which we all know is, Liam Neeson. So it'd be hard to remember who he was, but he made all three of them. So I'm guessing he was one of Liam Neeson's buddies from, his very long career.
Yeah.
Career that gives nightmares to people like you. So
I would think he went on to have a career a lot like Joe Don Baker's, where Joe Don Baker would pop up in these movies, some good movies, some straight to video B movie trash. But whenever you would see Joe Don Baker, you would know you're going to get a good performance out of him. It doesn't matter if the movie's trash; he's going to be good.
He's in a weird space, to me, because he's not an A-list, but I think he's well beyond a that guy actor, because I think you say the name to most movie fans like us, that you know who that is. Like the average movie fan, if you say, "Hey, John Grease," and they're like, who's that, right? Like he's kind of a that guy actor, but steady work, good on him. But I think Joe Don Baker's kind of a name, maybe because it's a cool name.
It is a cool name.
It is cemented. I mean, this sounds like a redneck sheriff, like he played in Walking Tall. So, but yeah, I think he's a recognizable name for sure. And so,
What name would you rather have, Joe Don Baker or Buford T. Pusser? Isn't that his name in Walking Tall?
That's his name. Yep. That's where what's his name? Jackie Gleason in Smoking the Bandit, Buford T. Justice. That was a total play on. He was a redneck sheriff.
Right. That's
right. Total play on Buford T. Pusser. So
that's right. And then The Rock, didn't The Rock remake Walking Tall? I never saw the remake.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I have not seen it. I want to say that Stifler's in it, Sean William Scott. I could be wrong.
Or is that
that's the rundown? That's the rundown.
That's the rundown, right?
My bad.
See, like Joe Don Baker, you could buy it in the 70s as a redneck sheriff cleaning up a town with a 2x4. The Rock just looks like who's gonna, like, if you're a common criminal in a small town and you see The Rock, are you actually going to try to then shake down the citizens of that town if The Rock is the sheriff?
Yeah, if you
I might move over to the next county.
What's interesting, if you look at the Walking Tall The Rock did, he's like half the size he is now. So like,
I know, yeah, he was more like 20 years ago.
He was
the
like
Pebble.
He looked like The Rock when he was in wrestling. He was trying to become an actor. He's just so jacked now. He looks like, like a superhuman. Back then he was just kind of a muscular dude.
But see, that's a
good Jack Reacher.
That's a good aside to have, because this movie being in the early 80s, I think a lot of the actors look normal. They might be good looking, but they're normal good looking. Whereas now, and the same thing, you think about the first Rambo with Stallone, or the first Rocky, when Stallone was beefy and built, but he was beefy. And then by the second Rambo and the second Rocky, he's all right. He looks like he's carved out of stone. He's also doing what Drago was doing in Rocky IV and injecting millions of steroids into himself. But like the actors in this movie look normal. And that's kind of, I don't know if it's charm, because there's not really a lot of charm for this movie, but I like that. The same thing with Porky's. When we covered Porky's, like they might not look like they're actual high schoolers, but they look like normal people. Whereas now you watch something like, High School Musical, and it's just models walking on the screen, and that's supposed to be the teenagers. And it's like, how are kids or anyone supposed to relate to this at all? But did you know this? Do you know this has a MASH connection? This movie does have a MASH connection.
Boy, I know, I'm sure there is, because as we've talked about a number of times, all things come back to MASH. So go ahead. By the way, if you're new to the podcast, Mike and I fell in love over a shared fandom of the show MASH. Now, Mike is definitely the more knowledgeable and so forth of it, and he spends all of his free time watching in the Frank Burns Dirty Movies Theater. So
The
please,
Tabasco
Mike.
Film Company. The
Mostly when
Tabasco
Mike
Film
brings
Company.
something like this up, I generally know what he's talking about. But he's definitely the white beard knowledge sage on the mountainside for MASH. So please, Mike, what is the connection?
And I do actually have the white beard right now, so that I can stroke the white beard. Yes, the MASH connection. There's two of them actually.
Oh my!
Logan Ramsey.
Okay.
No.
It wouldn't surprise me if you told me Joe Don showed up. That would have made sense.
No, I could see that though. I could actually in the later seasons he would have been a good when Colonel Flag stopped showing up, they could have had Joe Don Baker start appearing as a villain, as the heavy, as like a different kind of villainous character. He would have been good in MASH. But no, one of the actors, Logan Ramsey, who plays Mayor Neville, he was in The Incubator. He was the one soldier who actually had an incubator but wouldn't give it to Hawkeye and Trapper. And then we have, and I'm going to say this last name wrong, Reed Crookshanks, I think is his last name. He plays, that's his real name, right. Coach Straight, and he is in Welcome to Korea. He plays the bartender in the officers club that Hawkeye, BJ, and Radar go into.
Okay.
So that is our MASH connection.
They're in Seoul.
They're in Kimpo Air Force Base. Okay. So yeah, I think
I knew it wasn't on the 407 set. I do remember that.
So that is our MASH connection. It always leads back to MASH, and it always leads back to Star Wars somehow. This one doesn't have a Star Wars connection, other than it came out in 1983, right before Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So let's do a recap, Mike. So the movie starts out, and you and I love to do this. A guy who looks like a discount Sean Astin is driving to his new job at a video arcade, and of course pulls up to a stoplight to do two women pledging a sorority, who look, though very attractive, I would be quite happy with either one of them, look about 38, but yet they're pledging a sorority.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, as I said earlier, they're good-looking people, but they're very normal, good-looking people. These two women, very, very, shall we say, busty, very attractive.
For 1983, yes.
For 1983. They look like they should have been pledging at a sorority in 1970, not 1983. I don't know who was watching their kids as they were driving around, but...
So they have to get a picture of the nerd with his pants down as part of their pledge, which they do, and then he goes to work, and they took his pants or something, because he goes to work in long plaid boxer shorts, and his work is at the arcade. He goes in, and
he's very excited to start. He's very excited to start his first day at the arcade.
And by the way, the girls flash their boobs to get him to drop his pants. So right away, the jiggle starts. You're not even 7 minutes into the flick, and already you've got tatas. So we're off and running.
Did you call him discount Sean Astin?
Sean Astin, yes.
I think he's discount Eddie Deason from Grease. He's
okay.
Actually, you know what? He's actually a little bit less. He's not as annoying as Eddie Deason, but he's cut out in that mold, I would say. Wouldn't you say he's supposed to be like the nerdy guy who has no experience with women whatsoever. He's very embarrassed about being around women, yet he has no qualms about dropping his pants in front of two nicely endowed, shall we say, housewives that are posing as college students.
College girls. He gets to the arcade, which, by the way, if you're a car dork like me, you're going to love that. He goes in because there's a pristine Vega Pinto and
I thought of you.
Pontiac.
Isn't there a Plymouth K car parked there too?
Yeah, well, I think that's what he was driving, in a convertible.
Is that
K
what it
car.
was? Okay.
If he wasn't in that car, the girls were. Well, he goes in, and my of course, my jaw didn't drop the floor with the girls flashing discount on us. My jaw hit the floor because this was like the greatest arcade I've ever seen. Like every game I can think of and remember. My friends and we used to have to bop. I don't think you were as big a gamer as I was, but me and my friend.
No, but back then, I mean, back in like 83, 84, yeah, I will say it's very authentic looking. It does capture it really well.
This is a stupid anecdote, but I was like, we had to go to various arcades. There was like, there were 7-Elevens back then, but Wawa's pizza places might have 2 or 3, 4 machines in them. The arcades at the mall had 25, 30, but we had to bounce between all those occasions to get to play all the games that were out. This place has everything we can think of. So I'm like, oh man, this is just paradise.
Can I tell you where?
Go ahead.
Can I tell you where I played my video games at? So I grew up in the city.
Oh yeah, Philadelphia.
And the one place that had 1 or 2 video games was a corner store. That's also where I used to get my comic books with the covers ripped off, so you would get them cheaper.
Right.
And you would get discount and you would get discount candy. And so this place had like 2 games.
Wait a minute. What the hell is discount candy? Like, is it gum already chewed or something? Like, what the
No.
I mean,
it might have been. You might have got it off the bottom of somebody's shoe and put it back into a wrapper.
Was it like off-brand Hershey's and stuff?
No, but it was like it wasn't in. You could buy it separate. It wasn't as fancy as now, where you could. It wasn't as fancy as now, where you could weigh it and it would tell you. But I mean, you could buy it kind of separate, or you would find the candy that you wouldn't find in the 7-Elevens. This is sounding like way shadier than it really is, but so it was probably the cheapo knockoff candies, but they were still good. Or you would get like a bag of Swedish Fish for like $1, and it'd be.
I know of these places. Yep, I remember these.
So that's where there was like 1 or 2 video games, but where I played mostly my video games, we used to stay in Atlantic City when I was a kid. We stayed in the Dunes Motel in Atlantic City. That was across from the Tropicana. I don't think the Tropicana is there anymore. I don't stay in Atlantic City anymore. But we used to stay in the Dunes Motel. And my parents, we stayed, my parents, my cousin's family would stay there. So it was my 3 other cousins and my grandmother and grandfather. So they would go to the Tropicana and gamble. And they would drop, this is the early 80s, 83, 84, around the time this movie came out. They would drop us off in the arcade in the Tropicana, give us like $20 each and say, get change and play video games for an hour while we're upstairs playing the slot machines. So this is where I played the Return of the Jedi video game, which was awesome back in 1983 or 84, whenever this was. Kung Fu, I don't know what it was called. It was like Kung Fu Fighter or something like that. You would probably know if you would know if
Mortal
you saw
Kombat.
it.
Yep.
I mean, Pac Man, Miss Pac Man, they had all those. But that's where that was my arcade experience. And maybe if we went to the mall, we didn't go to the mall as much as I think we take our kids now. We used to go to the Deptford Mall in New Jersey. We used to go over the bridge and go to the Deptford Mall in New Jersey. So I'm sure I went to arcades there. But my memories of playing in arcades is mostly from being down the shore in Atlantic City in the Tropicana Hotel and Casino, as my parents and grandparents are upstairs probably smoking cigarettes and playing slot machines. I was in the arcade with my cousins and my brother playing video games.
That sounds like a great 80s memory.
Oh, it was awesome.
So anyway,
I was like 8 and they dropped us off. My cousins were younger than me. It was great. Like, it'll be fine. Don't worry. Just play video games for an hour. We'll be back to check on you.
I know the same feeling, except my mom would give me like $2 and like, okay, make it last. I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom.
I think it would depend on how much they won up at the slots. Maybe they would come down and give us $20 more.
So anyway, he goes in this place, which is not only arcade, it also has a
real fast when they go into the arcade, and that's the whole beginning. The best part of this movie is the theme song, the totally awesome video games. It's so cheesy, early 80s. Oh, it's great. It's got
sexual innuendo. Like play with
Yes.
the joysticks, whack it left and right, or something crazy
Anybody
like that.
out there, if you after we go over this movie, if you do want to check it out, you will not be able to get that song out of your head for at least 3 days.
3 days, yeah. So he's apparently going there to get a job, and the owner of this establishment. See, this was before it, but this has like a Footloose theme to it, vibe to it, because it's like, did Footloose actually like steal from this? Because there's Joe Don Baker is a local politician who thinks that the arcade is a cesspool of debauchery,
it's a cesspool of drugs and alcohol.
and debauchery, and needs to be closed down because it's
I mean, it's the normal for these movies, like slobs versus snobs. I mean, it's not exactly that, but it's basically the parents, and it's really Joe Don Baker who riles up the parents, wants to close down the arcade because well, this is like the greatest arcade ever, because the owner or the owner's grandson who's running the arcade has his own sex room in the back room of the arcade. I mean, I don't know. I was a kid in the 80s. Maybe this was going on in every arcade, and I just didn't know about it.
And this is kind of an interesting twist here, because this grandson that Mike just mentioned is the gorgeous guy in the movie, as we would refer to him as Discount Ted McGinley. His name was Jefferson Bailey in the movie. Interestingly, the actor's name is Scott McGinnis, so maybe he's a distant relative of Ted McGinley.
Ted McGinley, that's right.
I don't know.
When they came over on the boat, they had to change the names.
Yeah. So he's helping Discount Sean get a job, and
we have Discount Sean Astin, we have Discount Ted McGinley, and then we also have Discount Bluto in this movie. We got
to get to him. He gives Sean Astin a job, and at first you think he's gonna like torture him, because he's kind of like, he apparently knows the 38-year-old sorority girls, and like, ha, they got a Polaroid of him in his pants. I thought they were trying to get a picture of him with his dork out, but it actually is just him in his pants. Okay, whatever. But actually, whatever, it turns out that like Discount Ted doesn't hate Discount Sean. They're actually kind of friends.
Which I kind of like, because it didn't go down. It doesn't go down that road.
He's actually kind of civil and kind of a friend to him. But then getting to what Mike's just talking about, there's, of course, the best player in the place is this, as he said, Discount Bluto. Now, I thought Sam Kinison when I saw this, but Mike corrected me. He says, no, this is way before Sam Kinison, because he's portly, he's got unshaven. He's
disheveled.
He's constantly eating. He's sweating profusely in every scene. His clothes are covered in fruit grease and ketchup because he's constantly eating candy or burgers or hot dogs.
He doesn't listen to this. He reminds me of my cousin who we called the Fro. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can say that. He'll never find out.
But he's a cross between like Bluto and every fat slob in the movie. But he's got a skill. He's not a useless buffoon. He's like the best video game player in the United States, because he's just, as he's eating hot dogs and candy, he's racking up all kinds of
don't
points.
they say that he was like the valedictorian of his class, but then he became like
a year later
he was like addicted to video games. Right. So this is what happened.
Leading into Joe Don
was
Baker,
his fate.
Like, this is the downfall of society. So Joe Don's trying to shut it down, and he has, I think, his grandkids or nephews.
But before we get to that, we can't forget what this movie is probably, if anybody remembers it, what they remember it for.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The old hot dog and the cleavage bit.
Yeah, Discount Sean is working Discount Sean's working the food counter, and he trips or stumbles or bumps into somebody. He's trying to serve a hot dog, and it comes out of the bun and does like a triple axel twist in the air and lands right between the ample bosoms of actress Becky LeBeau, and just sticks there. And so the jiggle, jiggle action is happening.
You described that perfectly. Thank you. I'm glad you described it, because you described it perfectly. You really set the scene for us there.
Oh, so I just want to give Becky LeBeau her flowers because she's very beautiful, a big chest, the natural chest. If you ever look her up on internet, she's always in a bikini or something, exposing
Was she a
her
Playboy
ample,
Playmate?
gorgeous. Well,
There
I
was
don't
a
know about that,
former
but
Playboy
I want.
Playmate in this movie.
Please let me go over a few of her. Let me go down her
Credits?
IMDb base films of her career. Bigfoot or Bust, Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl, Pinups, Babe Watch Wild Pool Parties, Bikini Drive-In, Munchie Strikes Back, Point of Seduction, Body Chemistry 3, Soft Bodies Invitational, Sins of Desire, Up All Night, and I'm just going to stop there. I think you get the...
Which one did she win the Oscar for?
Well, she was in a movie called Munchie, and her credit is Pizza Screener. The other... Hot Chick, Virgin Sacrifice.
I shouldn't laugh because it's one
Girl.
it's one more credit than I have, so I shouldn't really laugh
Nurse.
that.
She has like no names in this movie. Dancer, Happy Birthday Girl, Why I Like to Be Nude Speaker.
Ooh.
Bikini Girl again, swimwear model. So God bless. She is beautiful, and even in her what does she look like now picture, she's beautiful, but her younger, she's stunning. So she made a career, steady work out of being just a gorgeous, you need a body, hot chick with a body in a flick. Here you go. So there you go. So flowers to Becky LeBeau. Now, so Jodan gets his, now this is the interesting, Mike, and I'll give the baton to you. He has two nephews who actually are people we know.
Yes. So we have Arnie, who is played by John Deal, who we spoke about earlier, and Max, who
Wait,
is...
did we talk about John Deal? I thought we talked about...
We talked about him a little bit. We talked about John Grease, but we talked about John Deal. John Deal was in Miami Vice. I think what he's most known for, he's that guy. He's shown up in a lot of stuff, but he's most known for Miami Vice. He played one of the detectives in Miami Vice. And
Okay.
the other nephew is Max, who is played by... And I don't have the actor written down in front of me, but it is the other Daryl from Larry, Daryl, and Daryl. That's what I knew him as. When I saw him, I said, wait a minute. I thought to myself, I was like, is that Larry or Daryl or Daryl? And he looks exactly the same.
Well, I was just ready to say that. He is, in appearance in this movie, it looks exactly like when he played the other Daryl.
Yes, he looks exactly how he did in Newhart. And they are and I'm doing the air quotes, the comic relief of this movie. They're not totally bad. I mean, their antics are predictable, let's say. They're the stupid, slapsticky henchmen for Jodan Baker.
This is a weird one. Check this out. John Volstad.
John Volstad?
He sounds like a Viking. He's got a very
That does
name.
sound like a Viking. It's a very Vikingish name.
But yeah, he was one of the Daryls. I mean, that is an awesome name.
That is a very cool name.
I'm gonna just click here on John Deal. I felt like he had a little more teeth to his career.
Oh, we're gonna dig deep into John Deal.
Just think.
I'm sure you're gonna come up with something, and I'll say, "Oh yeah, that's right."
No, I'm wrong. I mean, he steady.
No, he did nothing.
Well, no, I mean, he steady work, so good on him. Again, as I've talked about, and I think you've agreed that any actor just wants, everyone would love to win Oscars and beat Brad Pitt 20 million a movie. But at the end, if you can have steady work and support your life and your family, that's something to be said for that, because a lot of them might get a series or a movie or two and then kind of don't, and they have to go work at, Home Depot.
Yeah, like I said, I was making fun of the young lady. Well, she's not young now, but the young lady that we were just talking about. But she has one more credit than I do. So hey, she might have been pizza screener in some jiggle movie, but that's more than I've ever done. So hey.
So he has he doesn't have steady appearances. All right, you're right. He's a that guy actor. I mean, very little on here I'm looking at is, oh yeah, that one or that one. But he has popped up on, I give him his flowers for this. He was popped up for an episode or two on The West Wing, NYPD Blue, Unsolved Mysteries, Jurassic Park, Pearl Harbor.
He was in Jurassic
Jag.
Park.
apparently.
Okay, so yeah, he did a lot of TV work.
X-Files, Outer Limits, when that did a Con Air. That's a great movie. Nash
That's
Bridges.
right. He wasn't Con Air.
Time to Kill. So, give the man his due. He's a that guy, but he is one of the more steady that guy people you'll ever meet. I mean, I recognize his face. I recognize him. I'm like, yeah, it's one of that guy. I couldn't tell you what the hell he was in once I looked at it, but I definitely knew his face. At any rate, they go in to steal the video games, and
we forgot about more tatas, by the way.
Please refresh my memory.
When the couple is screwing in the van.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. And they fall into the van. Who is it that falls into the van?
Discount Sean.
Sean.
There's a 70s shagwagon van with the treasure mags and the Ace of Spades side window, and there's a hot tub. And this is so. Discount Ted does mess with Discount Sean a little bit and says, "Oh yeah, there's a van outside. I think people are getting. I forget what he's like. The premise he does. You should go check it out. It's making all this noise and everything." And of course, he peers through the window and then falls into a hot tub with a woman with no top on.
So, and I forgot. Okay. I forgot the other instance of tatas. The strip video sequence. Where discount Ted McGinley takes the young ladies back into his love den in the back of the arcade, and they play stripped video.
That's right.
Now this never happened in the Tropicana when I was in the arcade. There was no strip video going on.
The ladies you're referring to are the sorority sisters, right?
I think it was the sorority sisters.
Who it was.
I think so. And they play strip video.
Now, Discount Ted has all the allies of the people of the arcade, and there's a great sequence in the arcade when they kind of going through it, seeing all the games, and of course there's many a lovely lady in short shorts, so we get a lot of legs and tuchus shots. There's the Wormser situation where there's two black guys playing with.
That's right.
They look like they just fell out of Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo. They've got mesh sleeveless shirts on, tight jeans, white sneakers, playing a game. Which just like, okay, right on.
Yeah, I do have written down that we have in this movie we have drag and we have racism.
Yeah, okay.
So that adds to the sleaze bagginess of it. So we are living up to our name.
Yeah, I think that's when Zmed-O-Meter.
I think that's when the nephews plan to steal the video games, aren't they?
Correct.
Aren't they talking to the one guy, and
right.
I think he's kind of almost like trying to talk jive to the one African American guy.
And then what other stereotype do they meet when the arcade? Mike, take it away.
Don't they meet? Do they meet the Indian? Do they meet like an Indian
Not
guy?
Indian. Not Indian.
Who is it? What is it?
Latino gangster.
That's it. I'm sorry. Sorry. I got my racial stereotypes messed up. Sorry.
Yeah, this
silly me.
Straight out of the movie Colors. He's got the hairnet on, the flannel that's unbuttoned at the top, the white t-shirt. He's tatted up left and right, dark glasses, the soul patch and mustache. He's got a knife. I mean, he's just and that's like it's
subtlety.
Like
subtlety was not exactly the strong suit of this movie.
Well, I mean, when you think back to this, like when they just, I guess they have to show, I don't know, other races in this, because like they meet this Latino guy for about 2 minutes and that's the end of them. They meet the black guys who were playing, and that they meet them for about 2 minutes, then they never see him again. So it's like,
I mean, it's the early
movies
80s.
All over the place.
It's bright white. This movie is bright white. Before we keep on going, we can't forget about, and we brought him up, John Grease playing King Vidiot and his minions that are making the weird, aren't they going like beep, boop, 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 behind him? They're kind of proto punk rocker. They're very, as we're just saying with stereotypical racism, they're very stereotypical punk rock characters where they have the spiked up hair, very early 80s
Yeah,
punk rock characters.
there's King Vidiot's a guy of course, and he has girls with him, but they're all very androgynous makeup, like very
Hmm.
David Bowie, Spiders of Mars esque, combined with studded leather, spiked Judas Priest, uh,
Yes.
motorcycle cop type outfits. The girls are in like shredded mesh stockings, and they do this weird thing. Mike just talked about it, where they like he commands them, and they never speak, and they literally say like beep bop boop, and they're doing like lock and pop moves.
Pop and lock, yeah. And
You
he's
know,
not really the villain of the movie.
King Vidiot is also skilled at video games, so they're setting up the rivalry that's to come between McDorfus and King Vidiot.
And Joe
Um,
Don Baker near, I know we're jumping around and we're jumping to the climax, but Joe Don Baker recruits him into the plan to take over the arcade by challenging the McDorfus to basically a video game match on
right.
who can win in the video game. But John Grease is actually very good. He's funny. He's very
Yeah,
funny. There's
he's
one scene
he's hamming it up.
when Joe Don Baker tries to seduce him to the dark side, let's say, John Grease is giving off very big, I wrote it down in the notes, very big Nicolas Cage vibes, where he's just doing like weird things with a house plant in Joe Don Baker's house, and he's just acting generally weird, but you kind of can't take your eyes off of him in the scene. So he made something out of a nothing character, and you remember him watching the movie.
So jump back a little bit. So the grandkids
Mm-hmm.
try to steal all the games. They load them in a truck, but the other people siphon the gas out of the truck. So while they go to get gas, they unload all the games, and the two knuckleheads drive to Joe Don Baker's house. The truck is empty, and it ends up leading, Joe Don, challenges Ian, Discount Ted, get into a discussion, and they make a wager. We're going to have a battle of video games. We're going to put up McDorfus versus King Vidius. They're going to have a video game showdown, the high score. Joe Don Baker leaves them alone. If King Vidiot wins, then Joe Don gets the arcade. This is just, in my mind, a completely wackadoodle scene. And
Yes.
I don't remember how it led up to it, but during the night when they're stealing the video games and all the arcade people are plotting
It's
to
kind
crack
of weird. To your point, like you said,
McDorfus,
I don't know how it leads up to it. They say they have to go there to,
Joe Don Baker's house.
yeah, to do it on Baker's house to, I
I
guess,
don't remember
create a
what.
diversion or to maybe
Oh, that's right. That's
to
right. Yeah.
somehow make sure that he doesn't show up at the arcade. I mean, it's just basically a set piece for
We got to go to
more
his house.
slapsticky kind of hijinks,
It's
basically.
probably, this is getting a little bit to this Zmed-O-Meter, but watching it now, it's
Hmm.
very creepy.
Yes. Yes,
Back
it
then,
is.
we probably would have laughed our asses off. But so
Yes.
Discount Sean goes in, and whatever reason, Joe Don Baker's wife is popping Quaaludes or some sleep medicine, excuse me,
It's the early 80s, so it
like
was
Tic
probably
Tacs. I mean, she's
Quaaludes.
like down on these things. So she's all whacked out of her skull. And of course, Sean Astin falls down and somehow ends up in bed. And McDorfus is like, "Yeah, this is your chance." He's trying to get her to bang her, and it's really
Because
disturbing.
he's a
It's
virgin,
really
yeah.
disturbing, and she's whacked out, so she thinks
Yes,
he's Joe Don Baker.
have sex with the passed out woman.
Yeah,
And let hilarity ensue.
and for some reason again, there's a lot of this movie that's just unexplainable. The wife is not only whacked with Quaaludes, but she has like this clear. She almost looks like her face is covered in Elmer's glue. You know when it turns
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, it's supposed to be,
I don't know
yes.
what the hell that is.
It's supposed to be some kind of I mean, yeah, it's back.
Nighttime mask that women wore in the early 80s.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
all
so
right.
that no real woman would probably ever wear in real life, but
Oh,
in
we totally
movies they
forgot about
always
something.
did.
So part of it, we didn't cut. I apologize that we forgot this. In this mix, because again, kind of the Footloose vibe, where John Lithgow has a hot daughter that falls in love with the Kevin Bacon character, who's the bad boy. There is Joe Don Baker. I think it's either his granddaughter or his daughter. Very very pretty
His
blonde lady.
daughter.
It's okay, and she kind of like, of course, likes the bad boys. The arcade guys. Go figure. Mostly because
Mhm.
she knows Joe Don doesn't like it, so of course that immediately makes it attractive to her. Is that maybe not the guys, but the scene of the arcade. So when Sean Astin tries to escape the bedroom and McDorfus is out front, and they try to explain their presence there to Jodan Baker. It's like the middle of the night. The hot daughter comes out, and it's like, oh, I'll go with you guys back there, Kate. He's like, no, there'll be none of that, and she runs off with that.
She is also the least convincing Valley girl ever.
Oh, that's right, she is. Yes,
but she's also that girl. If you see her face, you'll know her from the 1980s. She appeared in so many movies in the 1980s. Her name is Corinne Bohr.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. She played Patsy. But when you see her, she's been in millions of 1980s TV shows and movies. So
one of Mike's personal favorites, Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol.
That's actually not a bad one. But we did forget a little bit more Sleaze when they have
she was in
oh no.
One of the TV, I don't know if this is a movie or a short-lived series, live-action Flash.
Really? Who was she?
The Flash 2, Revenge of... This is actually Revenge of the Trickster. Sci-fi. I guess it was a movie.
Maybe. Or they put together a couple episodes and made
1991. And so...
Wait, I want to bring up a little bit more Sleaze that we forgot. We forgot about the PJ party. We forgot about the PJ party at the arcade.
That's right.
This is what it had the classic Pac Man panties. I was bringing up earlier how Midway, the director, went to Midway and said, "Hey, if you let us use your video games in this movie, you're going to get more exposure." And they had a new video game coming out. It was called Satan's Hollow. And so they said to the director, we will let you use our video games if you put Satan's Hollow in a prominent spot in the movie. So there's transitions during the movie with Pac Man going across the screen, and you hear the Pac Man, the Pac Man sound effects. But there's also a scene with a woman wearing Pac Man panties, and I think she asked Discount Ted McGinley, "Do you want to play Pac Man?" Or does she ask Discount Sean? I can't remember. So it's just amazing to think that video games companies back then would say to this director, "Sure, we'll let you use our video games in the Pac-Man image in this movie. That's fine. Just as long as you advertise our new video game coming out, we don't care. It's okay. I'm sure it's all good. It's all family friendly."
Yeah, that was a big thing and a big moneymaker back then, because at home, you had Pong. So if you wanted to play a really good game with graphics and gameplay, you went to the arcade. Now, eventually the home systems caught and blew away the arcade games. Arcades died a slow and sad death. But, that's Pac Man was a billion-dollar industry for a while between the games and the merchandising, and they made TV shows and movies and several other versions of the game. Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man 2, Pac-Man Jr.,
Yeah, we do kind of forget that you did have to go to the arcades to actually get the good. Like, we think back romantically about Atari, but then about 10 years ago, I bought, you could buy the old Atari system. You plug it in, and it's like, oh, it's going to be really cool. I get to play play Pitfall. And you start to play, and you realize, this is what I thought was cutting edge graphics back then in 1982. I do want to say, Jodan Baker, for as much as we've been talking about him, he is very good in this movie. I mean, we're talking about all these Discount Ted McGinleys and Discount Blutos. He's playing a caricature kind of character. He's playing the heavy, who's the authority figure that they have to go against.
He's the John Lithgow priest from Footloose. That's exactly what he is.
But he is good. He brings that Jodan Baker aura that he always had to it. He always has a gravitas that makes you buy him as an authority figure. Some of the stuff that comes out of his character is actually funny in the movie. They have the spontaneous protest of the arcade, and there's people walking around. Somebody has a sign out at the protest that says, "Nuke the arcade, save the children." And there's a reporter reporting on the arcade, and the director's wife plays the reporter, which I had to look it up when I was watching, because she's such a horrible actress that I had to see who she was. And sure enough, she was related to somebody who made the movie, which is not surprising.
They eventually, before the video games show off, they end up in court. And so,
yeah, this was like a subplot that was weird. This movie was 88 minutes. It could have been.
They packed a lot in.
They did pack a lot in, but it could have only maybe been 70 minutes because I don't know if you really needed the whole public hearing part of the movie. That's where we get the MASH connection. We get both the MASH connections in one scene.
Let's talk about that for a second. You know, when Joe Don Baker's on trial, they do the vision scene of what.
Yes, that I will
he's
say
trying to
that,
describe the arcade as, and it's
I'm glad you brought that up. That was actually pretty funny. Where they both describe their visions of the arcade. Yes.
So do you want to describe the Joe Don Baker vision, and I'll do the Discount Ted vision?
It's the Joe Don Baker. They walk
as
into
he
the
describes
arcade,
it.
As he describes it, there's mud wrestling going on.
S&M.
There's S&M. One of the video games, I think it says the sperm giver or something like
that. It's just an S&M house of debauchery trying to portray it as. And then Discount Ted gives his, and it's very like, everyone's in like white robes. It's supposed to be like a religious purity scene, and they're drinking milk instead of beer. And
the woman says to Discount Sean Astin, "Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally rubbed my breast up against you."
Yes. To Mike's point, that is just kind of a funny scene, but
and that's where I got the quote at the beginning, where they say, "In the words of the Apostle Paul," where they're talking about the poor people. But yeah, it was clever. It was very clever. That's what I mean. This movie is not good. It's not a very good movie, but there are certain scenes. There are certain clever scenes and scenes that make you laugh. It's not a total waste. It's not as I said, and we keep bringing it up, it's not a zapped. It's not a total waste of your time. There are some clever scenes. And there's tatas in it. So,
the trial goes nowhere. So then comes to the aforementioned, they're going to play for.
It has to end with the big, as these movies always have, there's got to be the big showdown at the end.
But of course, there's a twist. It's going to be McDorvis versus King Vidiot. As Mike alluded to, Joe Don somehow convinces King Vidiot to play for him so he can win the right to shut down the arcade. And so, in order to try to get them to forfeit, Joe Don has and his cronies kidnap McDorvis, tie him up. So now it's like,
is he left with the wife?
Yeah.
That's right. I couldn't remember. He's left
still
with the
hopped up on goofballs.
Going goofballs. He's high on goofballs.
So, in a very, very, very bizarre twist, somehow Discount Sean Astin, dork of the movie that he is, isn't skilled at video games enough to take on King Vidiot. But who is Discount Ted McGinley? Except he has a trauma. Please, Mike, take it away.
So the trauma...
and I mean it seriously. Please take it away.
I was totally not expecting this turn. I wasn't expecting the movie to take this turn at the end, as he's describing to Discount Sean Astin. I just love how through this whole description we've referred to the characters as Discount whoever instead of their real names. As Discount Ted McGinley is trying to explain to Discount Sean Astin why he can't perform. He always says through the whole movies, "Oh, I don't play video games. I just run the arcade." Right. And so he describes why he can't play video games. So he was
flashback scene, by the way.
He flashes back to his love nest in the back of the arcade, his arcade love nest, and he's getting busy. Let's say with his
this is the gratuitous sex scene in the movie. We get some boobage. Some thigh, some
sure, and it's not. Buttocks. I mean, it's for its time. It's not anything that's too. It's not graphic at all. But he's getting busy with the girlfriend when the girlfriend's dad bursts in and decides to take out his anger on his daughter.
We're laughing because it's so goofy.
I know we're laughing.
This is actually a very dark. This is actually a very dark scene. It's completely out of sync with the tone of the movie. But go ahead, Mike, continue.
No, and that's basically, and that
he beats the shit out of the girl, so he's traumatized and can't.
and
somehow
he's sworn off. He's sworn off playing video games.
Don't ask us why that he's having sex with his girlfriend and she gets her ass kicked. That
yes,
it makes him not be able to play video games.
To your point, it's so weird because this paper thin concept of a movie all of a sudden tries, and they really try. I could almost buy it if they did it in a funny way. And like we just said, we're not trying to make light of a woman being beaten by a man. Of course, we're not trying to make light of that. But this stupid little movie that has been silly for probably 65 minutes, all of a sudden at the 66th minute decides that it's going to try to be serious. And after the first 65 minutes, you just can't. Your mileage is going to vary on if you're going to buy that swerve.
Yeah, it's not unlike a previous podcast which we covered, Showgirls, which has a tone to it, campiness and drugs, and it also has a very brutal with dark
that,
scene.
And that's,
like,
I'm glad you're bringing that up though. With Showgirls though, you could buy it because then the resolution to that scene, is so equally keeping in the tone of the movie, so over the top that that scene in Showgirls is pretty brutal. But I think the retribution that she inflicts on the guy is so over the top, just like the rest of the movie, that you can almost buy it. It's just like it takes it to like a screeching halt. I don't know. I'm going back and forth.
I'm buying what you're selling there. I agree with you. Yeah, you made your point well. So somehow, Discount Sean is not skilled at video games, but skilled at psychotherapy. He convinces Discount Ted to shake off his trauma.
We all have a talent, don't we?
That's right. To go and play King Vidya, and he defeats him, and all is well. But still, Joe Don Baker has one coin.
Yeah, it's not like we have to go. It's not like we have to go deep into. It's like these oversized video screens, and they're playing. What's the name of the video game?
Satan's Hollow.
Satan's Hollow. So that's what they're playing at the end. So that's what Midway wanted. They allowed them to have all their games. So Satan's Hollow is prominently on display in the final battle, the final confrontation.
I will say, just as a video game nerd, Satan's Hollow was a good game. Anyway, so
was it? See, I've never heard of it.
It was actually a pretty good game, and this is the '80s, so all that. PMRC shit's going on, so a game with Satan's Hollow, you're like,
ooh, Satan.
Yeah. So he has one left card to play, but somehow they have a Frank Burns dirty movie of Joe Don Baker that they slip to the news reporter, and he, crawls back into his hole, and this is basically the end of the movie.
But I do like how they wrap everything up with the grandfather who owns the arcade.
My bad.
Shows up. He looks like Anna Nicole Smith's husband.
Yeah, this guy is like
he comes rolling on in a wheelchair, and his equally well-endowed nurse who is taking care of
beautiful, Pam Anderson clone, big.
And doesn't he
see? Whatnot.
He sees Discount Sean Astin and says he needs to get laid. The mayor is addicted to video games, and of course the girlfriend shows up, and Discount Ted McGinley is fully functional again in all the right ways.
Yep.
And by that I mean he can play video games again.
That's right.
Let's just say his joystick is working again.
There you go. So that's the movie. It's all over the map, much like this podcast is, but we're staying true to the source material. So
that's right.
I thought it was awful. I got through it once. I can never see myself ever wanting to watch this again. Mike, what say you?
Well, let's just say it this way. We recorded a Joysticks episode a couple of weeks ago that somehow got lost in the ether of podcast mishaps. So we had to re-record this episode again.
I think we did much better.
This episode was much better than the first one, but there was still no chance in hell I was watching this movie over again to refresh my memory. Thank God I took copious notes on Joysticks. Probably the most that's been written about Joysticks other than its Wikipedia page is the notes that I have in front of me. I think I have Zapped as my low point of the podcast so far. So better than Zapped. I think it's better than Private Resort, but not something I would say to our fair listeners to seek out. I would say just listen to us laughing about it, because you'll have a much better time, as I say about a lot of the episodes. Instead of watching the movie, just listen to us. It's like it's a good time capsule, as you said.
I was just ready to say,
if people are gamers, it's interesting to watch it, to see the video games and just to see the early 80s. But and to see Joe Don Baker, who's always good in what he does. But the movie, at least it's 88 minutes. They cram a lot in 88 minutes. It's not a long movie. It's a one and done. If you watch it, you'll watch it once and you'll never want to watch it again. See if it's on YouTube and watch it for free if you can.
I'd recommend it if you're a video game kid in the 80s. This is worth a watch. It's not great. You get to see some tatas, so you got that going for it. It's a hot mess. So it's, it has some redeeming. If you're weren't a video game kid, it's not really worth. It's not a good time capsule. To Mike's well said statement there. You kind of have to be a video game kid to kind of get a lot. There's a lot of little haha that you would only know if you played video games and lived in arcades. So, yeah. Okay, so Zmed-O-Meter. One thing before we do Zmed-O-Meter, I always like to ask this question: could this film be released today? Even could you have to chop out a little bit here or there? Yeah,
or could it be released on TV? Could it be released on TV?
Well,
I think we always ask too.
I think with what you take out of it, there's still enough left over to have a.
I think so too. You could cut out the tatas and get it onto network TV.
I was thinking more cut out the 3 or 4 minutes of stereotypical characters, because that would probably offend people, rightfully so. And what
would offend people? What would offend people more, the stereotypical characters or the hot dog to the cleavage?
I think that would play today. Actually,
that was the best part of the movie.
But there is one part we forgot to mention.
Which one?
But I got to admit, I chuckled at, because we watch things like Vacation, Chevy Chase movie, where he's like, "Excuse me, Holmes, how do I get to the freeway?" Now, I don't know in this day and age, that's probably considered offensive, but
to
we laughed at
people.
it. I bet you couldn't put it out today, because someone would get
probably not.
Because when Sean Astin's walking past the aforementioned black guys playing, he's like, "Excuse me, brother," and I was like, "Ah," but like, oh wait, we're probably not supposed to laugh at that kind of thing anymore. And that's the only racist language it's the only language that could be even,
considered.
Put a toe in the pool of racism. He goes, "Excuse me, brother," and that's that. But to Zmed-O-Meter, oh boy. So we agree there is an editable movie that could be put out. Would anyone watch it? Probably not, but it could exist. Zmed-O-Meter. Back then, every trope that we talked about was, I think, perfectly fine back then. So I don't think it flips it. I'd give it a 0 or a 0.5, but it's no better, no worse than everything else that was out at the time on TV and in theaters. In this day and age, again, I think there's only maybe 5 minutes that could be considered offensive. I mean, I don't think anyone is offended by jiggle. There is some odd sex scenes, but I think you could probably have it out. But Zmed-O-Meter, 2.5, maybe. I don't think it pegs it too hard. What do you say?
Yeah,
Mike?
back then I say 0.5 also. It was
today,
back then.
Yeah, today I
and
say 2.5.
Today, I mean, honestly, in all honesty, today, I mean, the jiggle part of it, there's still movies that, I mean, it might be done in a different way, but there's nothing graphic about any of it. It's silly and it's cheaply made. And the language, I mean, isn't bad. Not that, that matters to me, but, and compared to other movies that we've watched, there's not a lot of there's not major racial stereotypes or stereotypes for homosexual characters or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say for now, Yeah, they're like 2.5, 2 point. It's not pegging it, not like some of the other movies we've watched.
You know, you and I are old enough that we kind of get this movie. I mean, if you put it out today, I think
Yeah,
a
that's what I
lot of
mean.
younger people would
We're
be
of a
like, "What the hell are
yes,
we?" I don't think they're
we're
offended
of a
by it. They're
generation
like,
that
"What the hell is this?" Like, we'd
we
be
might
like, "This
not.
is
We're of a generation. I'm not going to say we appreciate it because it's not a great movie, but we can see where it's coming from, and
yeah,
in the
absolutely."
context of when it was made, what they were going for. Now, did they achieve that? Probably not, because it's not a great movie. But we can at least see what they were going for. Yes, I would say it's a movie that wouldn't be made today, just because I don't think there'd be an audience for it. Not because it's
No one
going
would
to peg the
understand it.
Zmed-O-Meter. Yeah, it's not that it's going to peg the Zmed-O-Meter. It's just that there would be no audience for it.
Yeah.
So I think the
So
final word on Joysticks is, if you're a video game nerd, if you're into classic video games, give
and
it a
jiggle
watch,
movies.
and jiggle movies.
If you
Give it
like
a
video games
watch.
and Porky's, this is movies right up your alley.
Yes, and if you don't,
And
then
it's not very good, but it's worth it.
avoid it at all costs. And if you'd like to see a hot dog in cleavage, then watch it also. But, and also, as I said, the Wendy Jo Sperber Memorial, Joe Don Baker, rest in peace.
Yeah, so please.
Much respect to you,
Buford T.
sir.
Pusser.
Yes, much respect to you, sir. Much respect to you. He was great in Fletch. Um, so yeah, I'm glad. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers right now because we haven't finished this. We haven't finished the episode yet. As Andrew knows, we can get done the episode and then it still disappears. So hopefully, this episode will be coming out very soon after it's recorded. I think we're going to try to record another episode, hopefully next week. Now that our children are winding down their school years and have less activities that they have to be at night, hopefully Andrew and I will have more free time to hopefully get a quickie. I'm hoping to get a quickie in with Andrew, and then we'll be able to get ready, buddy. So I know there's been other episodes where we say we're going to do this next, and then we don't do it. But we're going to try to do. We're not going to mention that. We're not going to mention that lost episode. That'll come out on the DVD as an extra. The lost episode of Sleazebag Cinema. I think we're going to try to do Bloody Birthday. It's a movie you never saw. You've never seen it, right?
No, I didn't even know
We're
about
going.
it.
I've never seen it either. We're going off of a trailer that I found and that I showed to Andrew, and it just looks like a batshit crazy movie. So we're gonna hopefully do that one next. But I'm glad we got to do this one. I will say that I think this episode was better than the one that was lost. I had a lot more fun. I had a lot more fun talking this over. It's just because I haven't seen Andrew's pretty face in a couple of weeks, so maybe it's just because I missed him so much.
That's right. Wait, I'm not eating cheese tonight during this episode.
That's right. Was that the last episode, or was
I
that
was
2
very
episodes
hungry.
ago? You were hungry. You were scarfing down that cheese, and now you made me hungry. So maybe we're making the audience hungry. So yeah, we are going to try to do Bloody Birthday. I had a good time, and I guess I should give out the plugs on social media and all that crap. Andrew's not on social media because he's smart. He doesn't do that kind of stuff. Either that or he lurks, and we don't know where he is, and he's hiding in the bushes of social media.
I will admit to being a social media voyeur, but I do not have an account nor post.
hiding in the bushes with binoculars and social media.
I'm just leering.
But you can look for Sleazebag Cinema on Twitter. Sleazebag Cinema is on Twitter, as am I. I'm on Twitter as Mick Jamison1 or This Lightsaber Kills Fascists. I would love for people to go on Sleazebag Cinema on Twitter, give us Zmed-O-Meter ratings for some of the movies that we've done. I'd love to hear what their Zmed-O-Meter is for Joysticks. I'd love for them to just watch Joysticks and tell us what they thought of it. It would just be interesting to hear what people think of Joysticks and to give us suggestions. We have had suggestions from some people on movies to do. They've wanted us in the summer to do Meatballs, which it's not really a sleazy movie, but it is a movie that would be interesting to see if it's something that would be made as a teen comedy today. So that might be something we might have to think about.
Sure.
And there's been some other suggestions. So I'm just throwing that out there to our audience. Give us suggestions on what you'd like for us to cover, and if you'd like to come on and talk about it, that'd be great. I've had other people, the Best Care Anywhere boys who are millennials, want to do Blues Brothers, which to them probably seems like a very sleazy movie. I've seen it millions of times, but I would love to watch it and talk about it with people who are younger than us two old heads and see what how they what their perspective is. So maybe we'll do that. for all you guys listening out there, as I always say, please share the episodes, get us out there so we get to a wider audience. And if you would kindly go onto Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. It just helps with the algorithm. That would be great. Andrew, anything you want to add before we get the hell out of here?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Well, I had fun tonight. I hope Andrew had fun.
Always.
And I hope all of you out there in podcast land had fun. And until we talk next time, have a good one.
Bye, kids.